Hello everyone. In this session, we want to take a look at trust relationships in a forest. Trust relationships make it easier to share security information and network resources between domains. Here we have an example of the default trust relationship in an Active Directory forest. By default, Active Directory trusts are what we call transitive trusts. So when the trust is created, when you create the domain, if you have multiple domains, by default, domain A will trust domain B, and domain B will trust domain C, and domain C will trust domain B. So it's a two-way trust where the domains trust each other. Trusts can be configured as either one-way or two-way relationship. The default operation is to create a two-way trust, or what we call bidirectional trust, because this makes it easier to manage trust relationships by reducing the trust that you must create. In some situations, however, you might decide that you don't want to use a two-way trust. You simply want a one-way relationship. This means that the trusting domain, the domain with the resources, allows resources to be shared with the trusted domain, but not the other way around. When you add domains together to form trees and forests, we have an automatic transitive two-way trust created between them. And this works well for most organizations. But there are some circumstances where you might want to manage trust manually. For example, you may want to remove trust between domains if you are absolutely sure that you do not want resources to be shared between domains. Or, because of security concerns, you may need to keep resources isolated. There are other types of special trusts that you can also configure. You have your external trust, you have your realm trust, you have your forest trust, you have shortcut trusts. Let's take a look at these different types of trusts that can be configured within the forest. Let's first take a look at external trust. You can create an external trust to form a one-way or a two-way relationship. The transitivity is non-transitive, meaning that the domains do not trust each other by default. When you create an external trust, you need to form a relationship or a trust with domains that are outside of your forest. Domains that are located in a separate forest that's not joined by a forest trust. When you establish a trust between a domain in a particular forest and a domain outside that forest, security principals from the external domain can access resources in your internal domain. Active Directory domain services will create what we call foreign security principal objects within the internal domain to represent each security principal from the trusted external domain. These foreign security principals can become members of domain local groups within your internal domain. Remember that domain local groups can have members from domains outside the forest. Directory objects for foreign security principals are created by Active Directory domain services, and you should not modify them manually. You can view the foreign security principles objects within Active Directory users and computers by enabling your advanced features on the View menu. Next, let's take a look at the Realm Trust. You can establish the Realm Trust between any non-Windows realm and an Active Directory domain. And they have the non-Windows RAM has to be Kerberos version 5. This trust relationship will allow cross-platform interoperability with security services that are based on other versions of the Kerberos 5 protocol. For example, Unix implementation. RAM Trust, you can switch from either non-transitive to transitive and back. RAM Trust 2 can be either one-way or two-way. Then we have our Forest Trust. As you can see here, that is a transitive trust, and you can create this Forest Trust between Forest root domains if the Forest functional level is Windows Server 2003 or higher. Creating a Forest Trust between two root domains with a Forest functional level of Server 2003 or higher provides a one-way or two-way transitive trust relationship between every domain in each forest. Forest trusts are useful for application service providers, organizations undergoing mergers or acquisitions. We also have the shortcut trust. Shortcut trusts are one-way or two-way transitive trusts that administrators can use to optimize authenticated process. For example, an authentication request must first travel what we call a trust path between domain trees in a complex forest. And this can take time. This authentication request can be reduced by using a shortcut trust. Now, the authentication request, if it travels the trust path is a series of domain trust relationships that authentication requests must travel. If you want to shorten that path and have the user authenticate quickly, the shortcut path will be effective in doing so. Shortcut trusts are necessary when many users in a domain regularly log on to other domains in a particular forest. So you might have a domain A within forest 1, and you might have a domain C within forest 2. And we have members from both of these domains in contact with each other all the time. So you don't want to traverse the whole forest path to get to each other. So we create a shortcut trust between those two domains only. You can have a one-way shortcut trust that you establish between two domains. That is trust only in one direction. And you can also have a two-way trust between those two domains, meaning that domain A will trust the domain that it contacts regularly in the other forest, and the domain in the other forest will trust domain A. And we make a direct path between the two to cut down on authentication time. we want to take a look at the creation of a realm trust. We're going to click on Tools, Active Directory, Domains and Trust. We want to right click and click on Properties. On the Add a Term Properties box, we want to click on Trust. And we're going to be creating a new trust. So you want to click on New Trust. And at the Welcome to the New Trust wizard, we're going to click on Next. We need to type the name of the domain, forest, or realm, in our case, realm. And we need to type a DNS name. So we're going to type tray.com. Then we want to click on Next to continue. On the trust type page, we have a choice between Realm Trust and Trust with a Windows domain. And since we are creating a Realm Trust, we're going to accept the default Realm Trust and click on Next to continue. At the Transitivity of Trusts page, you have a choice between non-transitive and transitive. And remember that the non-transitive is a trust that is bounded by the domain and the realm in the relationship. For the transitive, if the client computers are configured to take advantage of transitive trust, then the trust is bounded by the domain and the realm in the relationship, and the children of the domain and the realm in that particular relationship. We want to form a trust relationship that is non-transitive, so we're going to choose non-transitive, which is the default here, and we want to click on Next to continue. We have a choice in the direction of trust page between the two-way trust, the one-way incoming trust, and the one-way outgoing trust. If we choose a two-way trust, users in this domain and users in the specified realm will be able to access resources in either domain or realm. If we select one-way incoming, then users in the specified realm will not be able to access any resources in this domain. If we choose the last option, which is one-way outgoing, users in this domain will not be able to access any resources in the specified realm. We're going to be choosing the two-way, so we want to click on Next to continue. And now we are asked for a password. So we want to enter a password. And our password is going to be password 4. So we're going to go for a capital P, A, double S, WORD, RD 4. And we want to repeat the same password for the confirm trust password. So we're going to click in the confirm trust password box. We're going to type the very same password. And that is password 4 with a capital P. Then we want to click on next to continue. And let's take a look at the selections that we made. The domain is aditum.com, which is this domain. The specified domain is trade.com. The direction that we chose is a two-way, meaning that users in the local domain can authenticate in the specified domain, and then users in the specified domain can authenticate in the local domain, tray being the specified domain. We want to click on next to complete the trust and finish to close the wizard box. Remember that before the trust can function, it must also be created in the other domain. So you have to make sure that you use the same trust password when you're creating the trust in the other domain. So the trust has to be created in both domains. We want to click on finish. We can go ahead and say OK in the property box. In our session today, we looked at different types of trust. We looked at the creation of the realm trust, and we noted that we needed to create that trust in both the local domain and the specified domain, which was tray.com. This is the end of our session on trust, and I want to thank you for listening.